Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to some more Ghost Recon Breakpoint. For those of you who don't know, I play this game as realistically as I possibly can, as the game will allow. And today we're playing as that unit that was created by General Fritz Lewitz all those years ago, formerly known as Hunter Group, formerly known as 1 Reconnaissance Commando, now known as 1, 2, 3 or 4 Reconnaissance Regiment, affectionately known as the African Recces. If you can't tell by the accent, I am South African. So our task today is to disrupt enemy communications by disabling 3 antenna towers, and we initially saw area of operations and that little abandoned site in the distance, which is above and to the left of our area of operations, needs to be secured first, because that's going to give potential enemies a tactical advantage and a positional advantage over the area that we're going to be needing to be operating in. The weapon we're running is a weapon known to most people as the FNFAL, the Israeli Galil, or the South African Vector R4. The Vector R4 variant has, amongst other things, the grab handle removed. It has a skeletonized stock and a skeletonized foldable stock, excuse me. They didn't have that option in this game, so we're just going to have to run with the current variant. We're also going to have a look at ambush and counter-ambush tactics. The use of this particular weapon versus a silenced weapon does dictate our tactics. And as you saw early on, I will speed up the game as and when there's nothing interesting happening. One of the things I do want to talk about in this game is walking. Whenever I see people play this game, they're always running and rushing between objectives. You end up leaving your teammates behind and you have very little time to react to situations tactically. What we've got here is some kind of mishap that occurred, and there's a down civilian. We don't know if he's dead, we don't know if he's bait, so we're going to maintain a degree of caution. I put my backpack, or took my backpack off, because I don't know what's about to come, and that looked like a communications backpack out of my back, so we dumped that. This civilian, who has severely broken legs, looks like a drone crash, is going to give us some information on our next mission. Now, our objective is across the street in front of us, and as I was scoping out the area early on, you might not have seen it because it was in fast forward mode. There were 2 enemy on our side of the street that I wanted to eliminate because they would cause us problems crossing the street. It's those 2 that you see in your screen right now. So we're going to talk now quickly about ambush tactics and the concept of speed, surprise, and violence of action. I would add setup into that when it comes down to an ambush scenario. But what we are effectively trying to achieve here is high speed, high surprise, and a large amount of violence of action or gunfire. I do like the crawl layers going on here, chin scraping the ground, head low. That's good form. I'm going to dedicate the furthest bad guy to one of my team members. He's going to take the shot on him, and then I'm going to eliminate the guy closest to me with a CQB kill. Now, speed, surprise, violence of action, that's all going to come into action now. The deal is, when you launch an ambush, you have to commit to it, right? You've got to commit to it full on. So when I move, I'm going to move quite quickly, and I'm not going to stop. And what we see here is a fairly good example of what might happen. That guy sees me, he sees his friend's head explode. He doesn't know where to look, he doesn't know what to do. This is just poor training. For those of you who don't think that's realistic, trust me, under stress and under duress, when multiple things happen, people do silly things. What I do like is the position my team takes up. So they move forward. I am now the rear guy, right, in this diamond formation. So I would effectively be covering the rear, but I do like the fact that they have committed to the ambush of those 2 guys and are taking up good defensive positions for us to be able to cross that street. I'm just going to hang 10 for a minute to make sure that there are no vehicles or no other patrols coming before I cross the street, because a highway is a one-way trip to the next life. There's very little cover, and if someone sees you before you see them, it's really hard for you to re-establish a offensive position. So this is the time that I would sprint, because I don't want to be caught in the middle of a highway. Intense dive there for cinematic effect, and we get low and just take a moment to ensure that no one's seen us and that we can continue. I do want to move as far from this highway as possible, as quickly as possible, but there isn't a lot of concealment available to me just yet. To my right now, however, is a nice little sort of ravine or river, shall I say, that is cut through the ground, and it will give us both cover and concealment. But we are going to wait for this technical vehicle or technical to pass us by. Going to a more deeper concealment mode that the game offers. I think it's pretty cool. Called Prone Camo. Adds a bit of realism to it. These guys do end up spotting their dead friend, which is why you want to make sure that you always have concealment. Right? Because obviously they are going to be on a heightened state of awareness now that they do see that there is an enemy operating in the area. That small element needs to be eliminated because they will effectively be at my rear when I move on to my target area. So I'm going to use this little ditch here as both cover and concealment. This is a very good firing position for us to launch an ambush. And so what we want, here's a good example of why A, you shouldn't bunch up, and B, just when you ambush, you have to commit to the ambush and be extremely violent. So those three guys in this position would be hard for me to take out, but because they bunch up and get super close together, they all fall within the rear sight ring of my rifle. So when I give my guys the go-ahead to engage, it's not really much of a problem. The FNFAL R4 or Galil is a really accurate rifle. It's the mainstay of the South African Army for years and years, and it's a really, in my opinion, underrated rifle. What I do like here though is my guys, the rear security, notice that there is a vehicle rolling up and they take action by themselves in order to eliminate that threat. As the rear man, I'm going to stay at the back. I'm not going to engage because the team forward of me have secured that location, so my job effectively there would be to secure the rear as they did when they spotted that vehicle. That's going to be a reoccurring theme in this video. Ambush and counter ambush. We use the game's mechanics to get my backpack back onto my back. In real life I would have had to go all the way back to where I left it earlier and retrieve it. So we do see two more guys in distance. I'm not comfortable with continuing and leaving those guys behind us. We have unsuppressed weapons, so if we were to engage someone further up this hill, they would be alerted to our presence, and then we would have an engagement from both the rear and from the front, and that's, you don't want to fight on two fronts. You want to fight in one direction. And here's another example of the drawbacks of iron sights, right? This is 100 meters, and this rifle is well capable of being accurate up to 100 meters. But because we're using iron sights, look at that poor sight picture. So I'm going to take a moment, catch my breath, and go for a headshot, and that is that. Now, the fact that we're using unsuppressed rifles, I'm just telling my guys to hold their position. Just to make sure that no one else heard that, and they would have to re-engage anyone else from the rear once we do move up the side of this mountain, and we go to secure that abandoned village house, whatever the case may be.
Okay, we'll move to you.
I'm gonna speed it up here a little, and what I want you to note is the camera movement. You always want to have your head in a swivel, as they call it. So I'm never just looking in one direction, especially when we have unsuppressed weapons. We want to see the enemy early so we can be in charge of or we can run the ambush, and we don't want to be ambushed. Another thing is also, you never want to crest the hill. You ideally want to walk around the side of it, because when you do crest the hill, you create a silhouette. And depending on where the sun is, you might not be able to see what's ahead, but people ahead or below might be able to see you silhouetted against the sun. So I'm going to push my team up to the house and have them get a defensive position on this or this barn, whatever it is, and have them set up a defensive position closer to it. While they're doing that, I will cover the entrance. I am now the rear man, so I will be covering the rear and ensuring that no surprises, or nothing takes our team by surprise. So for some other reason, my guy goes into the house. That doesn't change my tactics though. I'm still going to approach the house with care. He might have walked straight into the muzzle of an AK, and they are now holding him as a silent hostage. So I'm just going to pie the entry to this room and just make sure that there is in fact nobody inside this room. And there's my buddy, so we're pretty much clear. Once inside, I get some intel and a weapon, which I don't really bother with. So now that this site is clear, we can move on to the main point of our objective, which as you can see is 340 meters ahead. I don't like the idea of cresting hill, but there is no option here, so I'm not going to spend too much time on top of this hill. I'm going to move down it as quickly as I'm comfortable to do so. And one of the things you want to do is really take your time, have your team with you so that they can provide supportive fire should anything go wrong. They will also spot enemies. Remember, with your team with you, you have a 360-degree set of eyes or field of view, and they will identify enemies. Being on this hill, I don't like it, so I'm just going to show you guys the difference camouflage makes. So I'm just going to send my team to the tree line and just hang back. And as we approach the tree line, as they get into a position, I don't like the fact that they're kicking up so much dust. I feel they can do that with a bit more care. But look at the difference. A little camouflage makes, they're hardly in the tree line and they're already blending in. And if you were not looking for them, that would be an excellent ambush opportunity for the team. And we are going to be using tree lines extensively to set up ambushes.
Move to my location.
So another one of those sites where for some other reason there is a deceased civilian. I'm just going to make sure no one is there, and this lady with the severely broken legs gives us more information. Okay, so here is our first target, and we are going to, so we are in the first phase of our ambush, which is what I like to call setup. We are getting into a position where we can employ speed, surprise, and violence of action. There are two guys that we can see, but I mean there could be someone behind that truck, so when we do go loud, we are going to be extremely violent, and we are going to make sure we keep a constant stream of fire on that target area until we clear it. I like the fact that my guys have moved up with me, that they've taken cover positions behind trees. I'm going to use a flashbang. I'm going to use the double bang technique, which is you throw one and before it goes bang, you throw another one. And once the second one goes out, we are going to go loud.
Open up.
And as you saw, a third guy came out from behind the antenna. Now I'm the point man, and I can hear my team is going loud. This would be, in the US they'd call this contact rear, in South African we call this action rear. I was the third man in that echelon formation, so I would not have fired until the second man cleared me. I do like the fact that my rear team or my rear security spotted those guys and immediately engaged. What they would like to do, or what they should do, is call out, in South African it would be called action rear, so that myself and the point man in this particular ambush would know where to, in which direction to orientate ourselves. So I'm just going to hang back, get back to the tree line, make sure everything calms down, because I'm going to have to expose myself in order to destroy this antenna. So we just want to make sure, just take a moment, and I'm going to tell the team to stay within the tree line, right? There's no point in risking the entire team. Also, with their sets of eyes, they're going to have a greater field of view on my position, and be able to give me direction and cover fire should anything happen. So I initially thought that a grenade would be enough to destroy this tower, but as you will see, I was very wrong. Good accurate throw coming out here. I don't know, maybe that's a reinforced casing, but it doesn't do the job.
Slow down. We got
There you
bad
go.
guys.
The team just tells one of my team members just tells me to hang on, because obviously someone would have heard that blast, and either we want them to move on, or we want to keep eyes on them so we can continue and try to destroy this antenna with some more serious fireworks. So, having pretty much not dented that outer casing, we are going to resort to C4. And with C4 you want to back up a bit further because it's a much bigger blast. And that's the first antenna down, so there's two more to go, and I'm pretty certain that we are going to have to cross that street, which is, as you know, one of my least favorite things to do because you are hella exposed. I'm going to bring the team back up and we're going to make our way across the street. It's not the best situation. We were already contacted. Side note, what just happened there is why you never approach anything that you have used explosives on for a period of time, because secondary explosions are a common thing. I want to get across the street as quickly as possible, because as you can see, there's absolutely no cover. And once I'm across, just take a second to gather my team and find the next objective. And there we go, 159 meters away is the second antenna. Now, if you notice, I have 3 rounds left in my firearm. I should only be sacrificing 2 of these rounds when I change mags right here, because as you can see, it doesn't chamber around, which means there would have been 1 round still chambered in the firearm, but this game doesn't allow for that option. I like the way my guys are moving. They're keeping a very decent spread, which is very important. Now, this is one of the few times where the setup means that where I would set myself up for the ambush from a non-elevated position. Right, I am actually slightly lower than these guys. The reason I'm going to launch this from here is because if you look at it, there's no real cover or concealment between myself and the antenna, and I don't want to move to the left, which is where the road is, and I don't want to move to the right, which is where what seems like a building and train tracks are. So that's the problem. So we're going to use what we've got, and as you saw there now, when the enemy has an elevated position, they spot you much easier. So I wanted to use the same tactic, which was double bang and then go loud, and as soon as I can get my guy to orientate himself correctly. But as you'll see, it has literally no effect on these guys. I don't know who they are. I don't know what kind of gear these guys are wearing that they can't hear that flashbang. I don't know if anyone's ever heard one of these things. Comment down below. It is sensationally loud, but these guys they have absolutely no effect, and again no effect. So we up the ante, and I'm going to use a grenadier, and I unfortunately toss this a bit short, but once we go loud, we go loud. Now what I want you to notice is that when I do go loud, I'm not going to leave this position of cover, because we have a poorer position tactically than our enemy. I'm going to stay in cover. My teammate closes on the enemy to secure the area. I am now the tail man, which means I have to secure the rear. I do so making sure no one sneaks up on us. We don't have silenced
Targets left from
weapons,
this area.
so
Moving to back you up.
it's very important to maintain good cover for the entire team. And once again, just take a moment and make sure no one heard that. Bring the team to where I am, further into this forested area where there's more cover, and then I will go and plant some C4 and take out the second antenna.
Hold positions.
Roger that. Holding in place.
As with the first ambush, I'm going to tell my team to hold position. There is no need to expose them. And we're going to chuck the C4. I have to be honest, I don't know why the C4 just sticks and why it just chucks it like this, but it's a game, right? Onto the control panel. And so now you can see that tree line that we were in, right? It's the only real position of really good cover and concealment. Even though we were in an inferior tactical position, not having the high ground, it was the best position. Sometimes the setup does require you to make use of, or does force you to,
I need you at my location.
to make do with a less than ideal position. There you see why I don't like roads. And we get across this road. So we're just going to cover ourselves to make sure we're not spotted by that vehicle. I thought that vehicle was coming down the road, but it turned off to the left. Our next target is just off to the right there, as you can see, and we've got a small mound, small enough, not big enough to call a hill, which is going to give us a really good elevated firing position on our third target. So I'm going to take advantage of that, remembering that you never want to crest the hill. You want to go around the side. You don't ever want to be at the highest point on the hill, because, like I said, you stand a chance of silhouetting yourself and creating a target for the enemy. Now, I don't know if you guys can hear, but there is a drone in this area, so we want to ensure that we eliminate that as well, and it does give me another cause for concern. So if we count one bad guy, I can't see the drone and I can't see any other bad guys, and just judging from what we've been through, there would be more than one bad guy. Based on our experience. So this is something I would never recommend doing, but I'm going to, for the sake of time here, move forward and see if I can see anything. If this guy turns and sees me, we just have to go loud, right? This is not a intelligent way of doing it, but it's a viable option, and we can't get eyes on from anywhere else because there are no trees, there's no cover. Moving off to the left, we see the drone and we see two other guys. So I am going to assign targets to my team. Once they engage, we're going to move on the target immediately. A two-man element will be rear security, and me and myself and one other team member would go forward. So I'm going to...
Nice shooting.
At this point, my team spots some bad guys, and if they would say action rear, action left, or whatever, it would be easier, but they don't have that function. But what they do is perfect. Overwhelming fire on this is a great example of counter ambush, right? That enemy has a minigun, as you can hear, and they're putting so much fire on him that he can't properly use that weapon system. I plan to go loud with a rocket propelled grenade, but that's unnecessary, and my team was closing in on the vehicle. It was a great example of counter ambush, okay? Because had they moved backwards, had they stopped firing, it would have given the guy on that minigun time to orient himself, time to sort of set up his ambush of our ambush. And minigun, you're looking at 3,000 to 5,000 rounds a minute. We don't have that kind of firepower. That would be an enormous problem for us. So their counter ambush tactics there was excellent. And once they determined that this site ahead of us was clear, my three teammates used all their firepower to ensure that the operator of that minigun couldn't bring that weapon to bear. And guys, that is it. That is my playthrough.
Really? On my position.
Not playthrough. That is my gameplay of goes to Recon Breakpoint as a Recce team, a team of
We're good
South
to go
African
here, all clear.
Recces. Obviously, this is my version of it. If you are ex-South African Recce, please take into account that this is a video game, and we're just trying to make it fun and as realistic as possible. And very cool, tough guy ending to this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If this is something you want to see more of, please comment down below and let me know. This is how I play this game. I kind of tried to play this game in the way that the game creators wanted the game to be played and get the most out of it. And as you can see, the team I'm working with did a great job of ambush and counter ambush. That is it, guys. I will see you soon. Have a good week. Be safe. Train hard. Cheers. God bless.